Hello and welcome to Disc Dandies, a podcast where each episode, two friends share a recommendation with one another. We talk about what we liked, what we would change, and try not to judge each other too much over our bad taste. This episode, we finally get some wrinkles in our brains. Let's go.
I think you're being a little too optimistic there. I feel no wrinkles. Will, what about you?
This has been a very humbling experience for me, and we'll get into that. But I thought this would be a fun, easy, casual, easygoing exhortation. Man, this one beat me down, but we'll talk about that later.
Sounds good. How about we butter ourselves up? Like lube the gears.
We definitely need to lube something because it don't sound right. Like whatever sound our podcast is making, it's not supposed to sound that way. So let's do it.
Okay, so age-old question, Will. Bonk, okay. Marry, kill.
Okay. I'm familiar with this format, so I'm curious to see what you're going to throw at me.
Okay, Solid Snake, Leon Kennedy, or Rainbow Six Siege's Sledge. You'll have to remind me which one that is. Oh, okay, so I know he has the sledgehammer. That's like the one thing I know about him. Does he wear a gas mask or like a fancy hat? Like, can you describe the character for me? So he's bald, has a gas mask on, is covered from, I guess, upper neck to toe in black, SWAT attire. Buns of steel.
As you do when you're an operator, right?
Yeah, when you're operating, it's all profesh all the time. Gotta look scary. But whenever you're just like a nice cut of meat like Sludge is, you can't help but look tasty even in your SWAT gear.
But the important thing is that he has a sledgehammer. That's like the one thing. If you're going to take one thing from Sledge, he has a sledgehammer. Like that. That's it. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, most attractive quality: man smashing a wall down with a sledgehammer. Irresistible.
Okay, great question. Man, lots to think about here. I have to say, I bet every single character on this list that you've given me has been a sexual awakening for at least somebody in the world, right? Like all three of these characters.
I think Tristan would agree with Leon at the very least. So I think on some level we can all agree that these are sexually woke individuals.
Okay, quick question. Is Sledge an attacking character or a defensive character?
He's an attacking character. He breaks the walls down to penetrate the room.
Okay, well, I'm all terrorist all the time, so automatic kill Sledge. Sledgehammers, they're bad. Don't want them. Get them out of here. Now, so that leaves Solid Snake and Leon Kennedy. I feel like Leon Kennedy would do a better job of taking care of me, because like unless you're a husky in the Arctic, I don't think Solid Snake's really going to be able to take care of you. And also those cheeks slap for sure. I'm going to say kill Sledge, bonk Solid Snake, and marry Leon Kennedy.
Okay, I'm going to make. I think you still bonk Solid Snake. I agree with that, but I would marry Sledge.
Huh. Okay. You looking to make an addition to your garage tool set?
No, it's just more his commitment to his role. So he has one function, and that's just break shit down, get in there. And that's all he does. He's all about it. All these other operators got these fancy devices and like cell phone shutter downer thingies and seeing devices through walls and stuff and drones. He just hammer, like he just smash. And I want to lock that down lifetime.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In marriage, you're looking for commitment, and Sledge has made the ultimate commitment to his weapon of choice. I think that's great. So what are your other choices?
Well, so like I said, bonk Solid Snake. Cheeks clap all day. He's all caked up. I would kill Leon. Okay. Yeah. I can see that. He is
He's a little baby boy.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's good looking, but he's not hot. He just has that boy band charm, right?
Yeah, he's just like NSYNC leftovers. He's not like you know that they were capitalizing on that wave whenever they came out or Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, I'd say so for sure. Yeah, 1998 when he was premiered. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so at this point, I think we can say that no one will have an issue with our rankings, or with me. No one in my household in particular will have a problem with me killing Leon Kennedy.
Okay, I think your choices are defensible, but I'm gonna stick with mine. I think I've made the choice for the max increasing of my own happiness. But great question. Lots of thoughts there. How about we get into the meat of what we're talking about today?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, and before we get to that, hey, we love you. You know this, and I'd like to think that you love us too. We appreciate, the dandy dogs out there listening to us episode after episode. And if you're wondering what you can do to help us out, there is actually a lot. If you're listening to this in podcast medium, in your car, on your phone, something like that, it would do a lot for us if you wanted to go on to Apple Podcasts or iTunes and leave a 5-star review. That would really help us stand out from the crowd of podcasts who are, getting their footing under them. Now, I think we're in a great position. This is going to be our our 20th episode, which means we're in it for the long haul. We've gotten past that hump of I think it's like 5 episodes that like new podcasts, or it's really hard for new podcasts to get above 5 episodes, but we still need people to see us as a new podcast. So leaving a 5-star review is a great opportunity to do that. And in addition to that, did you know that we're on YouTube? All of our episodes have fancy graphics, colorful fonts, all that stuff on YouTube. So if you're just on your desktop and you want to listen to us on YouTube, you can absolutely do that. So if you're on there, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. That's another great way to get people to find our episodes, our podcast, through the algorithm on YouTube. If you are listening to this on YouTube, give the episode a like. That really helps us know that what we're doing on that particular episode or in general is vibing with you, so to speak. There's the bell icon if you want notifications when we upload a new episode. Go ahead and hit that if you're interested. It's not something that I usually use, but it's there if you want it, and stay up to date on everything that we do. And more than anything, I'm more speaking for myself here, but I love comments. I think I could speak for Jordan here too. Tell us what you loved and what you didn't about each episode, in the comments on YouTube. That's a great way to get in touch with us. Let us know what we're doing right, what you'd like us to change, and just let us know that there's people out there listening to us. So with all of that said, how about we get into the meat?
Please, God, let's talk about chess.
Chess. So my exhortation this episode was the classic game chess. And I don't think this game really needs an introduction, right? Like, I think most everyone knows what chess is, right, Jordan?
Yeah, if they haven't, this is going to be like a put you to sleep episode, maybe, depending on what your relationship with chess is. This is the big old nerdy game that's the bottom line and the top line for the introduction to chess. Everyone knows it, whether or not you know how to play it.
Yeah, this game really has a reputation of being like the intellectual game. Like, if you are smart, you play chess, you're good at it, you can see like 20, 30 moves ahead of your opponent. And, you have to be smart to play chess, or at least that's what the connotation is, how normal people think about chess. The game's very ancient, comes from, I think, ancient India. And I think it's safe to say that this is the game with the greatest pedigree among, games, or at least board games. I'd say it's probably more popular than Monopoly. Would you agree with that?
Does anyone actually like Monopoly?
Well, I see so many versions of it, and it seems like it's because Monopoly gets lumped in with Hasbro conference calls. So when I listen to that, trying to learn stuff about Magic the Gathering, I hear stuff about Monopoly, and apparently it is like one of their Hasbro's best selling games. So, but I'd say that chess is probably more popular than Monopoly overall.
Yeah. I mean, I think I can speak to the Monopoly success. I think it's just a bunch of people who haven't played Monopoly in a while that look at like one of the new versions, like the Mario or Pokemon Monopolies that they release and go on like, oh yeah, Monopoly. Everybody likes that game. I guess I'll get it. They play it once and they remember how miserable that game is.
Yeah, for sure. I had the misfortune to play Monopoly again recently, and it was not as fun as I remember it. So I don't think I'll be looking to play Monopoly. I'll choose chess instead. So instead of like an impression here, because I figured that both of us had at least a little bit of a history with chess, as most people do, I think. So let me just ask you: do you like chess? Is chess something that you would consider yourself a fan of before we did this exhortation?
I wouldn't call myself a fan. I like and respect it, and it's one of those games that like thinking about this game as I was playing it, and then like recalling my like personal history with chess. It's something that's always hit me as a game that is like like numbers. It's like Sudoku, or I mean, a recent example is something like what is it, Slay the Spire, where it's more focused on the mechanics, and so much so that there's like no like flavor, or there's no like coding to it. You know what I mean? It's just all gameplay, and I think it crosses that threshold of being something that's just so like like binary in that regard, that that's where it kind of like prevents me from being a fan proper. What about you, Will?
So about me, I am a fan of chess. I am really into the nominal gameplay and aesthetics of the game, but I am not good. And I think that my experience over the last week, really pushing myself to play more just start to finish games of chess, really made it clear that this is not a game that I know very well or am very good at. I have a lot of improving to do. But yeah, you mentioned personal histories. So did you play any chess as you were a kid? Were you a part of any clubs or anything like that? Before this exhortation, what has been your experience with chess?
So growing up, chess was my dad's game. He was very much into it and played a good bit. I don't know that he like knew any strategies or anything like that, like any of like the named ones, but he played a lot and he liked playing with me. So I at first, like as most kids do, you play it and you're like, oh, this is going to be fun. It's a board game. And then I realized how like I guess hard it was. And it like I didn't really stick to it at first. It was really through multiple like times where my dad sat down and was like, hey, let's play chess, that I actually like started to pick up an affinity for it. And I think it's for the reasons that you stated before, like the aesthetic more than anything. He had a nice chess set, like a really good one, and it was just really nice to play with, like because it was like marble pieces and like a really nice board. I can't remember the exact material. I think it may have been marble as well, but it was just always like one of those games where it was like you felt a little fancy playing it. And I see a lot of like variations of those boards, and it reminds me of like a similar feeling I have whenever I play with like old Magic cards, for example. It just feels like you're playing with something like a little bit more like eloquent than your normal game. So I guess that's where like my respect comes from, is I do like genuinely associate it with people who are very intelligent and take their time seriously, because chess is I think it is genuinely a highly rewarding intellectual game, even though I am also not good at it, and I only have like a introductory understanding to chess.
It's definitely a game that rewards you for the time you put into it. And I think my experience has really highlighted that, as it seems like yours did as well.
Yeah, and I never played any. I was never in any clubs or anything like that, despite wanting to be. There just weren't any in my high school, and I think it was one of those games that like I always wanted to play more of and learn more of, but whenever you grow up as a gamer, there are just more. I guess this can be considered a flaw, but there are just more like enticing games that come about. You know, your Pokemons and your Dark Souls and stuff like that. And it's tough whenever you have that like limited amount of time to decide between like, am I gonna like engage more with this chess thing, or am I gonna play like the 6th Pokemon release that they have? I think that's where my history with chess ends up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, with the games, chess is an ancient board game. As far as game design is concerned, especially in the last since the invention of video games and board game boom and all that, we just know more about what makes engaging games. Chess has no random elements to it, other than maybe who plays white, who plays black. We've discovered that people just genuinely like games with RNG. Like people want catch-up mechanics. People want more flavor to the game other than, oh, this is a pawn, it's like the foot soldier, and this is the rook, it's the castle. Like our brains are just wired to want something deeper than that. But for myself, I always found just the like I mentioned, the aesthetics, the actual like tactile feeling of moving like heavy like wood, plastic, marble sometimes pieces onto a board, that very tactile feeling, and just moving around these abstract pieces really spoke to me, even though I didn't really have anyone to play with other than like my mom, just like once every couple of years or something like that. I was never a part of a club or a group or anything like that. I think there was one at my school, but it was like very like specialized as part of a section of the school that I never went to, if that makes sense. Like it was like the people who really liked math were the only people who really got invited into that sphere. And I wasn't really a part of that. And to be honest, by the time that was available to me, I was really more into Magic the Gathering at the time. So that's where my loyalties lie at that time. But I always read about chess. Even if I wasn't playing it, I would check out books from the library and look at the pictures and try to read along and wish I had more people to play with. I remember I would go to the library and look at this book that would have lots of pictures of fancy chess sets, and I was just really like absorbing like all the different aesthetics that the game had. There was something about that really got to me. As a function of all of this, I never actually learned how to play the game well. And even in the years since, when I've began to dabble in online chess, I was still not really able to wrap my head around how you were supposed to improve the game. And that's kind of where I am these days, where I like the game, I know the rules really well, I can definitely play games, but now I'm at like the hard wall where it's like, if you want to get better, you need to put in work. And that's kind of been difficult to do, so to speak. But I think that we have a lot to say about this game just being super, super difficult. I lost every single game that I played over this week. Did you have a similar experience?
Yeah, I won one online game, and I'm pretty sure it was just because I was playing against someone with a similar skill level to me. I got absolutely rolled.
Yeah. Just to let everybody know who didn't listen to the previous episode, as part of my exhortation, it was that we create accounts on the site lichess.org, which is kind of become the gold standard for online chess. There's chess.com as well, which runs a lot of online tournaments and like streaming stuff, which we'll talk about later. But Light Chess is really kind of where the really good chess players are. So that's where we were playing chess this week. I found I lost a lot, and to be honest, it was really stressful to play. Did you find the chess that you were playing, was it more relaxing, or was it like relaxful, engaging, or was it like a high stress endeavor?
So chess has always been one or the other for me. It's very relaxing if I'm just like playing with a friend or family member or something like that. Like playing with my dad back in the day was very chill. Like he'd kick the crap out of me, but that was to be expected. In the under Lichess's circumstances, it was very stressful. The clock ticking every time you were to go to take a move, especially like it pushed me towards choosing the like longer exchange times. I think having a ticking down clock in most situations is stressful, but in a game where you're thinking so much, yeah, I was stressed out.
The few times that I was able to play chess, in my past, it was never timed. I never played timed chess until very early, or until very recently when I was able to play online. And that chess clock really gets to you, especially if you're someone like me that just kind of feels a lot of anxiety in general. But if if this is not a game you're super like well acquainted with, it is very stressful to play, and the ticking clock will definitely exacerbate that. I don't think that's how you pronounce that, but So I played all of my games at 10 minutes, and I know that that's technically not like long. I think they call it rapid, where a classical time. A time control would be like 30 minutes, and then you'd get extra time on top of that every time you made a move. And 10 minutes was not enough time. And that's part of why some games where I felt like I was doing a little bit better, I actually ended up like just not winning at all, because I would run out of time, and I was nowhere near close to finishing the game. You're absolutely right. I didn't play any long time control games, just an interest in getting more games in for our exhortation. But I am absolutely somebody that has to play on long time controls, or else I just do not have enough time to properly think about all the lines and everything that I want to do.
Yeah, so do you think getting more games in was the route to go for this one? I'm genuinely curious, because like I feel like something like Magic the Gathering, you get more games in because you want to see all the variables. I feel like chess is one of those that like you get as much out of more games as you do as long games.
That's a great point. You're absolutely right. That's kind of just what I wanted to do. Just for my own preference.
Mm-hmm.
It probably wasn't beneficial to me, and it definitely wasn't beneficial in terms of trying to get better, which wasn't really the point of what we were doing this week. But like the idea is that if you play chess and you lose, you're supposed to look at your games, figure out what you did wrong, and learn and become better for your next games. You definitely lose a little bit of that by doing shorter games. Now, you do get more games to analyze. It's like more moves that you can look and see whether you made mistakes. But I think that the wisdom really is that if you're a new player, if you're someone that's really looking to learn, you have to play longer time controls just to give you the ability to flex the muscle, like that critical thinking muscle, to figure out what your next moves are going to be. I probably did handicap myself quite a bit by forcing myself to play lots of games, but I just felt like you know me. I'm an aggressive player. I play red. I love red in Magic the Gathering. I not really someone that wants to spend like multiple hours on a single game. That's where I was coming from it at.
Gotcha. So you said you played using the 10-minute timer. I used a range. I tried. I basically like on Lichess, the way it's set up, it's like a 3x4 grid, and they have different variations of each of like the speed sets. I basically just went down to the quick pairing lobby down the left side. I did the 1-minute bullet timer, which was insane, absolutely nuts. Because basically both players get 30 seconds to play the game. I think it is, or maybe it's a minute apiece. Either way, I got the crap kicked out of me in that. Blitz, much better. I still lost all of them, but I felt a little bit more relaxed. In 10 and 30, I really didn't feel much of a difference because neither one went that long. I was either just like swiftly dismantled, or in the case of the one where I won, I basically I eliminated all of their pieces to where they couldn't win, and they just conceded. So I don't feel like it's definitely one of those games where I'm like thinking to myself, like, if I'm going to get really good at this, I probably need to start looking at like actual like strategies and understanding why they do what they do. Because I think similar to something like Magic the Gathering, where you're like, you want more lands, you want more cards, that's how you win. You want to like, you have to out resource advantage your opponent. Chess is like, you have to understand what gives you advantage in chess. Mm-hmm. And that was my goal this week, was I'm going to play every game using one of the openings that I'm reading about. So I pulled up the Wikipedia list of openings and I just went down it, just kind of choosing different ones and, reading about them beforehand, trying to understand why you start the way you do. And I can tell you, I still don't understand chess any better.
Yeah, I appreciate your gumption to do that, but it's actually weird. I think that the wisdom for learning chess is actually you're not supposed to try to learn openings until you're like at a certain competency level. They say that or learning openings is like one of the worst things you can be focusing on at the beginning of the game, which seems so crazy, doesn't it? But I definitely see where your head was trying to figure out what you're supposed to do. Sorry it didn't work out.
Well, no, it's fine. Like I wasn't really looking for the correct way to learn. I was just trying to like understand the game more, I guess. Like why do they choose these openings and stuff, and like try to see if I could like replicate that understanding for myself. Whenever we're giving ourselves like week time frames for these types of things, I have to kind of like approach each of these things differently. And I think that was the one where I was like, what is like a pro chess player thinking? And I can agree with what you're saying, that like it's just not applicable to what you're doing on the board. Like as a new player, you have other like foundational things that you need to work on before you can just jump into one of those strategies. Once I've successfully executed the opening, I didn't know what to do with it after the fact.
Yeah. One of the things that really struck me is when I was playing people who were nominally rated the same that I was. It really took me back how quickly they made good moves. I was constantly behind on clock against everyone that I played. And it was just nothing for them just to spend a few minutes thinking and then all of a sudden once they make the move, it was like, oh yeah, of course, that's obviously what that player would do. That's clearly the strongest move there. And it only took them like 3 seconds to think of it. And I'm sitting here burning a whole minute on trying to figure out which of these lines has, the highest percentage of what's going to, make things better for me. And I just feel like the people who are on there and like, devote all of their time to playing chess are just at such a different level. They've just put in the effort to think about the game at a different level. And it's just amazing to see them make these great moves with like no thought.
Yeah, it's definitely, and it's really hard to distinguish whether or not it's like whether or not these people have been playing chess like their entire lives, or if they just kind of picked it up with the popularity, like the recent popularity of the game. But I know that like watching like my opponents play and stuff, it did make me feel like, these people like clearly understand the game in a way that I don't, because like it's weird that they're rated or near us, but the gulf just seems so wide, and it makes me like wow, like how much better is like a top 100 person as opposed to where I'm at.
Oh yeah, for sure. And there are no catch-up mechanics. I mean, obviously there's nothing like that, but it's so easy to make one move and your game just be completely over. I've talked about this with Magic sometimes, where it's like, if someone casts a Sphinx's Revelation against you for, like X equals 3 or 4 or something like that, the game is usually over at that point. And, good players can look at that situation and know, okay, this is insurmountable. I've lost now. And this game has so many moments where it's just the tiniest mistake makes it to where you're completely shut out of the game and you have no hope of making a material advantage back, and that really ramps up the stress for me. But I can also see where that would make some people think, oh, here is where I can improve. I need to figure out how to do this. Therefore, this is a game that I like because it gives me this opportunity to figure out these mistakes and make sure I don't make them. But yeah, that really ramped up the stress for me. All right, well, why don't we talk about the strengths of the opponents that we were playing? So you played a number of different modes. So I don't know if you ended up with like a singular rating, but do you remember any of the ratings that you ended up at on Lichess?
I'm actually looking at the site now for those Lichess ratings, and I don't see where they have them listed. I see like Bullet. I ended up at like 703. I don't know if that's actually a rating or what.
Ooh, yeah, that is your rating. 703 is bad. That's not a good rating.
Yeah, I didn't assume it was a good rating, but hey, this is where we at. I got crushed. I feel I've earned it.
Yeah, the culture of chess has really embraced ELO. I don't know what that stands for, but it's the idea that when you start your chess career, you start out being rated at 1500, and then that number is your rating. And then when you play players that are rated higher than you, if you beat them, you go way up in rating. But if they beat you, you go down slightly in rating. Basically, the rating fluctuates based on how strong your opponent is, and it starts at 1500, and then I think most like people who are just starting the game end up somewhere around 700 to 800. That's like kind of, I know how to play the game, and but I make a lot of mistakes when I play, and then it goes up. I think like 1,000 would probably be the next step up, where it's like, okay, I know a little bit about the underlying tactics of the game, and but I still make a lot of mistakes. I think that I played this specifically the 10. All of my games were rated at the same, were affecting the same rating, so I ended up at about 1,000, which is not good. Like that's not really the level of chess competency, but it is there. Now, if I had to say what my real actual strength rating would be, it's probably around 800, where you ended up on Bullet. It's safe to say we're probably both there, right at the bottom, ready to learn and move our way up. But it's definitely not fun to sit there and lose over and over again, see your rating just drop over and over and over again. But also, there's a little bit of correction there, right? It's like, okay, this rating is clearly not right for me because I just started the game. Once you kind of get to a point where you're playing games and your rating levels off, then maybe you could feel a little bit better about it, or at least I probably would, where it's like, okay, I've leveled off. This is my rating. Now I can get better. That sounds about right?
I think so. I mean, I do like the ELO structure for, like Lichess. I think, and maybe people who are more like commonly playing Lichess can speak better to this, and maybe they don't like it, but I think that like in games like Overwatch that use that structure, it is all about capturing a competency that is really hard to like attribute to stats. It's more about who you're facing and how you fare against them. And chess, I can't think of a better like implementation for that, because if you beat someone who is better, you may not necessarily be better than them, but it will give you those points like upwards, kind of indicating that you've made some progress, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Playing against like the strength of your opponent is almost everything in chess, to be honest, other than just learning the rules and all that stuff. Since there is no RNG, no catch-up mechanics, it very is just like your knowledge of the game versus your opponent's knowledge. It really does just come down to, do you know more than your opponent? Are you able to outplay them? So my question to you is, if you're sitting down for a game of chess, who do you want to sit down against? Do you want to play against the strongest player possible in hopes of improving? Or would you rather play against somebody that is of your own strength, so you feel like you have a chance to win? Or are you more valuing winning or improving?
Oh, improving for sure. Because I mean, like, if I wanted to play to win, I'd just play against the kids. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, I want to play against someone who can like, who can explain to me why what I was doing was wrong, or why things went the way they did, or what the optimal move is? Because honestly, like, you say we're in the 800 range or something like that. I feel like lower than that personally. Like, especially after playing online, it's like I feel like had I played more, I probably would have ended up lower, because I think that I have an understanding of chess, but there are some like forward thinking things that I'm not very good at yet, and I would love to play against someone who is much better than myself to like kind of show me how to like draw the conclusions that you would from playing the game.
Oh, well, you're a pro gamer. That makes complete sense. You are someone who I know enjoys the strategic depth of games. And yeah, it makes sense that, you would approach chess with the idea of, I want to improve. And I think that's true for everyone who really gets into chess. This is a game where you have to want to improve to be able to enjoy it and engage with it on a regular basis. I kind of have doubts as to whether it's possible to play chess casually, just because strength is so important, I think I'm kind of the opposite way. I think I'd prefer a mix. I know that's a bit of a cop out, but if I want to improve, I would want to play against stronger opponents. I think that just follows. I think anybody that's competitive minded would realize that that's the way to go. But like, it wouldn't be fun, unless you're one of those sociopaths that just finds like being knocked down onto your knees over and over again and improving fun. I would also want to sometimes just play against people of my own strength, to test myself, to prove my ability to put into practice the stuff that I learned against a stronger opponent. If I was only playing against people who were just going to knock me off my feet over and over and over again, I don't think this is a game I would really want to engage with all that much, because that's not really that fun for me. So I think it's interesting how we're coming at it from two different directions there.
Yeah, I guess that we're definitely coming from this from two different directions for sure, because like I find improving fun, like even if like for something like chess, for me getting that even if it's not like winning the game, if it's like succeeding at something I was trying to succeed at, whether it is to like trap their queen or something like that, like I think that those little victories are some, like, because it's a game that's all about like micro strategies. There's all kinds of stuff happening in a single game that's a part of the larger whole. I think whenever you effectively pull off something, that feels like a win on its own, and I think that's how I look at it. It's one of those games I don't feel beat down whenever I lose. It just feels more like I got more to learn, and I think that's just how I try to approach games in general. And why I don't play like fighting games or something like that. But I like things where it's like you have the ability to learn and understand and improve, and it's not dependent on like physical abilities, and chess kind of fits that structure for me.
That sounds just like you, because I know you're a huge Dark Souls fan. So, opinion discarded. That's why I'm saying.
Yeah, I figured it would go that route.
For sure. Well, let me just ask you, just off the cuff, do you think it's possible to play chess casually?
Casually is like a really broad umbrella term, so it's hard to say. I mean, like if you're just like rainy afternoon wanting to play with a family member, I think that could fit the definition of casually. But if you're talking about like you want to play chess like stress free with someone of like equal or better ability, then yeah, I don't think it's casual as much. It seems like that would always be stressful.
Yeah, I don't think that I could, like, because I would have to play online on light chess and stuff like that. I don't think that I would be able to approach this game casually. If I'm going to get into it, I'm going to have to, one, force myself to love losing and improving. And I just don't know if that's what I want to do with my time when there's so much else out there to do. But I will say that I do think that if you really want to be good at a game, like if you're the type of person that wants to sit down and learn a game, play it over and over again and reach the pinnacle of it, chess is actually a really great game for that. I'd say it's probably a better choice than like Halo or maybe not League of Legends. That's probably one I would say might be worth it. But like Overwatch, Apex Legends, maybe even CSGO, like if you're going to put all that much time into like being like the best at something, like I think chess makes a lot more sense than any of those other games, just from like the real world pedigree and buy-in from, the whole world's population that it has. If you're someone that wants to get better at a game and be at the top, why not chess? It's probably your best bet.
I think it kind of comes back down to what I was talking about earlier, where it's like chess ultimately lacks flavor. It is a mechanical game. You can coat the pieces in the board how you want, but there's no ownership over the pieces. You can't say like I'm a rook guy, There's no like identity you can develop. I mean, maybe like your strategy potentially, but like I think that chess requires a level of buy-in and focus, but it, I guess, also kind of goes back to what you were saying before. It's not a game that you can just like play casually and like have fun. You can't hop on. Live chess is a competitive site, like and sure. I think that's what separates chess from those other games, and why you might see people dedicating more time to those things is because they feel fun to play. It's fun to pull off a headshot in Overwatch or CS:GO, while it might not be the most like fulfilling use of your time. And there's also like more going on in those, like they have worlds, maybe less Counter-Strike, but there are things that you can engage with and feel a connection to, whereas chess is like, this is a numbers game ultimately.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But it's interesting that you say that, because I think this is a great segue to something I thought was really interesting as I was thinking about chess recently, is that chess is kind of having a bit of a cultural moment these days. As you said, yeah, it is lacking a lot of the flavor that a lot of our top tier esports competitive games have, but chess is more popular than ever these days. Over the last year, chess has exploded in popularity online, via YouTube and Twitch, around that kind of online gamer crowd. Popular streamers that are popular for playing normal Twitch games have been dabbling in chess in addition to their normal games. They're like taking breaks and playing a couple of games of chess on live chess or chess.com. In addition to their normal streams. Chess pros are kind of joining the fray, so to speak, getting on and streaming, giving high-level analysis on games, and doing it on an online format, through streaming or YouTube videos. Most recently, the American Grandmaster Hikaru Nakamura recently really embraced streaming, or really embraced the idea of streaming chess online, and has really exploded in popularity. He's like consistently the highest viewed chess streamer on Twitch, and he has collaborated with a lot of really popular traditional streamers like XQC, Rectful, and Lurk, Lirik. I don't know who those people are. I don't watch a lot of Twitch, but
Lyric. Yeah.
Do you know who these people are? I've heard of Rectful before.
Yeah, I've actually heard of the opposite, Lyric and XQC. XQC comes up in my YouTube like recommendations all the time, though I've never like watched him. Yeah, I know of Lyric just because of like cross streams and stuff like that, and him showing up on certain like Among Us things.
Sure, yeah. And then, this Grandmaster Nakamura is coming in and coaching these players as they play chess in addition to their normal games. I think we can all see how that would really increase the profile of chess on these online communities. I took a look on Twitch earlier today. Chess, just a couple hours ago, chess was the 18th most played game on Twitch overall out of all the games, with 72.1 thousand viewers total. Now, I did pop in there. 35K of that is actually the Grandmaster Nakamura commenting a charity stream tournament, which is a big deal. But man, that's a lot of people to be 18th on the entire Twitch website, when there are all of these games with huge marketing budgets, who are trying to get their game out there, and they can't beat the oldest game, or the most the like old board game with the most pedigree. That's pretty incredible, I think. So I thought we could have a quick discussion. Why do you think chess specifically is capable of taking hold of the online consciousness at this moment? You know, when it's competing with League of Legends, Apex Legends, Hearthstone, CS:GO. Like, why would chess be on the upswing these days? Do you have any ideas, Jordan?
Well, first and foremost, we all have more time. COVID,
COVID,
like
yeah.
there are more people at home, and I gotta say, I don't see it as actually competing with those games. I don't think that's. I mean, who is benefiting the most from chess outside of live chess in this moment? You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where it's like chess is what you said it is. It's this ancient, always persistent game, even though it's just now becoming like an online, even though it's having its moment online right now. Pro chess has been a thing for a while. It's been a high dollar circuit for a while. It's like not a small competitive venue. And, we like there, that's the thing about chess is it has been a pervasive and important game for for the majority of what recorded history at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And it coming up during this time period is really cool. I mean, to me, I think it's awesome that it's coming up like this, and I think it's great that a site like Light Chess that's as well tuned and like designed as it is comes up. That is kind of like at the forefront of the success. It's a free site, you can play chess.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's like we talked about last week. If it's a free game, you got the leg up. That's a big deal. Mm-hmm. And whenever you're something that's just like as prominent as chess is during a time like this pandemic, it makes sense to me this would happen. I think this is a moment and not a permanent like number fixture or anything like that. I mean, I could be wrong, but I do think this is a result of people just having more time.
For sure. A rising tide lifts all boats. There's just
yes.
Some of what I said earlier I sourced from a The Verge article from the middle of last year, I believe June 17th, 2020. And it mentions that Twitch viewer numbers on Twitch overall have just increased exponentially since the pandemic hit. So for chess to be on the rise, it kind of is on the wave of like just everyone kind of being on these platforms and probably just looking for something new. I think that for such an old game, like you were saying, it's been, there have been pros for hundreds of years, been around forever. It has a lot of real world buy-in. The game itself takes really well to an online implementation, doesn't it? It's like there are games that are really hard to implement, like into an online version. I've seen some really sketchy electronic versions of some, classic analog games, but chess really does online play very well, and especially the introduction of chess engines, where it's so easy to play a game and then just quickly turn around and analyze your game and have a very powerful chess engine look at your game and tell you exactly where you made a mistake, and then that coupled with the fact that chess hasn't been solved yet, so we can have these super powerful computers analyze our games immediately, but also it not damage the integrity of the game as a whole because the game has not been solved yet. I definitely think just how well chess works online is a great part of it.
Yeah, I think it's just it's a controlled environment with a crazy amount of variables, mm-hmm. and the variables being like the openings and like responses and stuff like that. There are just so many different strategies that are online. Like looking at like the Wikipedia page that I referenced, it is enormous. There are just so many like tactics in the game, and like you said, there is no perfect one. It's like. It reminds, this is gonna be a weird comparison, but it reminds me of like basketball. Like it's an old game, been played by a bunch of people, but it's like kind of just ever evolving, and a lot of the appeal to it, despite it not having any sort of like any like personal thing that you can do there. Like the chess pieces are the chess pieces. There's almost like styles you can develop once you get to a certain skill level. Like, some people be like, oh, this guy's aggressive or something like that, and to you, you're just like, oh, he's playing chess. You know what I mean? Like I think it's one of those things where it's like it's like simple enough to look at so you can understand what's happening in terms of like what the pieces are doing. There's no like HUDs, there's no like stats everywhere. It's just the pieces, it's the board. But it's also got enough like I guess attachment to the people playing it in a way, like just like their strategies and stuff, that it's just a much more watchable experience.
Yeah. Honestly, I've spent, not for this week, but previously, I have spent some time trying to watch some chess commentary online, and I have to be honest, it's really hard to follow. I can appreciate that people like watching chess, and yeah, people can have different styles and all that stuff, but unless you really know chess, it actually is kind of hard to watch, because people will make moves that you don't understand and that you have no basis for. And I've noticed that a lot of like what happens on Twitch is people commentating games, basically doing what you would do with a computer on live chess, looking at a game, going through it step by step, and discussing why the moves are good or why a move was bad or what lines would happen if a player took this line. So that, like, the ability for people to commentate on games, of games of chess, is also another like thing that I think is really drawing people in, because it's not just watching an interesting game, but it's also a learning experience on its own to watch this and have somebody that knows more about it explain to you why people are making good moves.
Yeah, and I think what I mean by like watchable is the ability to understand like this piece is moving here. There's not a lot of noise in chess. It's like just the game. And yeah, I do think to the credit of the commentators and stuff like that is like they are breaking down to you like why you would want to like move your pawn or whatever where you did. And and especially like in a venue where like Twitch, where you can have longer form events to do that thing, you're not like competing for time slots and stuff. It's definitely benefited, like more so than it would have been like on like syndicated television or something.
Yeah, for sure. It's not like StarCraft where you have no idea what's going on. You can at least nominally follow what's happening. That's a great point. I do have to say chess. Okay, let's be honest. Competitive gamers, people who are likely to be on Twitch and streaming and all that stuff, are of a certain breed. I would say nerdiness runs abound in our community. I think that's safe to say. And let's be honest, the kind of reputation that chess has as a smart game for smart people, I think attracts a lot of people, right? I would probably say that's true of myself. I'm sure that part of what initially wanted me to like care and learn about chess was the fact that I was told I was a smart kid, and smart kids play chess, right? I'm willing to bet some of it did start up there with me. I bet that mentality does run kind of deep in the community. So there are a lot of people who want to watch chess because they feel of themselves, they feel themselves as someone who is smart enough to watch chess and to like be good at the game and watch it and know what's going on. I feel subconsciously there's a lot of that going on too. Is that unfair to say?
No, not at all. But I will say, for me personally, part of the reason why whenever I have like peeked in on the chess world, especially like professional chess, that I watch it because I'm just like kind of flabbergasted out. I think it's incredible, like how quickly they'll realize like a game is over. That's something I've never just like grasped whenever watching these games. Is like they'll be like someone will move they'll move their pawn forward or something like that, and then the other person will like sigh, shoulders down, and flip the king over, and it's over. And I'm like, what just happened? It's just like that's the thing that like I find the most impressive whenever I watch these things, is like these guys are so far ahead in the game mentally that they know when their goose is cooked before it's happened. And I don't know. And I also just kind of like that that type of sportsmanship where it's like, hey, look, we're both smart, we both recognize that this is the case, we're done. It's very common to have a concession in chess.
Oh yeah. Resign before checkmate. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's coming from the competitive sphere like Magic the Gathering, where like they're like, don't concede or try to hang in there as long as you can, unless like writing is absolutely on the wall. Like, it is kind of refreshing.
Yeah, for sure. One last thing I want to highlight. We did just get the very popular Netflix show, The Queen's Gambit. That was a bit of a cultural touchstone when it came out a couple of months ago. I'm willing to bet there are a number of people that saw that on Netflix and thought, maybe I should learn a little bit more about this game. Did you watch that show?
Me and Tristan have watched one episode, and I've liked it a good bit so far. I think it's going to be good. I also really like Anya Taylor-Joy for movie reasons. I've liked her in other stuff, but I definitely, that thing was definitely like a zeitgeisty type thing throughout the pandemic, and it took over Twitter for more than, I would say, at least a couple of weeks. It was everywhere.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's hard to overstate the kind of cultural zeitgeist power of a Netflix special coming out. Like, I know WandaVision just finished right now. Yeah, WandaVision just finished, and that's like the buzz right now. These things have big effect on our culture, don't they?
Yeah, they do for sure, and especially during a time where a lot of us are during a time when we're all looking for ways to fill our time. These things are like hitting a lot harder than they did already, and I think like something like Queen's Gambit just has that like, well, I watched this Netflix series. It has me more interested in chess. I guess I'm going to spend the next 20 hours of my time doing that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just super cool that chess has an exploded the way it has in online culture. And yeah, it might be a bit of a fad, who knows, it might go the way of Among Us is still huge, but it might go the way of some of those games that are popular for a while and then don't die, but are not ever as popular as they were before. But I definitely hope that chess retains the status that it has received on Twitch so far. I don't really, I mean, to be honest, I don't really have any quick hits for this episode. I mean, it's not really, what's your favorite piece? We could talk about that, but just overall, has your opinion of chess improved, stayed the same? Do you hate the game now since we started this exhortation?
This was a known quantity coming into it. It was definitely like, I know what chess is. I know how I feel about it. I am glad to like be checking into it, around this time too. It was a cool, I think mainly like learning about the strategies and stuff like that, and like what the thought processes were was one of like the big improvements I had as far as learning about chess again. But I would say I'm probably about where I started emotionally attached to chess.
Yeah, pretty much. I'd say the same. I will say that I do play a lot of puzzles. And for those of you who don't know, to get better at the game, Light Chess has a great system for this. And a lot of the other games or websites do too. But they have puzzles where they give you a position on a chessboard and it is your job to find the best move. And it's usually where there's one good move and every other move is bad. And it teaches you tactics. It teaches you how to be better at the game. I actually do those fairly often, maybe once every couple of days I get on there and I do probably about 20 puzzles, but I felt a lot of fear. This is just a part of my general anxiety that I have. I found it really hard to actually play beginning to end games against other people because it was so stressful and I felt so much anxiety about it. One good thing that came out of this exhortation for me was I had more of an excuse to push past that anxiety and to actually play games of chess. And I definitely think that that's something I'm hoping to keep that momentum up. And when I feel like playing chess, that I don't feel as much anxiety to actually hop on and play a game against someone of my own strength and prove to them that I do know at least a little bit about the game. I got a few wrinkles in my brain here and there,
No, I'll smooth brain here. I'm gonna roll down that hill if you set me down. Very much like respect the game. I respect the people I definitely respect the people who are good at it, and I appreciate its like moment in the sun right now. I hope it kind of like retains some of this, because it is nice to see this game, like a game I respect, taking off like this. And I mean, really, what game deserves it more? which is going to lead into my quick hit that I actually have.
Okay, sure.
Chess or Tetris? If there was one other game that I would say also kind of deserves this kind of spot in the sun, it's like this other fundamentally like simple game that also has like layers and layers of depth. Tetris. And it couldn't be more different than chess, but I always associate the two with each other. Where do you land on that? Like on that spectrum?
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never liked Tetris. I mean, I can play it and I see why it's fun, but it's one of those things where it's like you can play it, but you don't gain anything from playing it. Like it's just a time waster. With chess, it's the same amount of stress, but like you're improving and you're like becoming better at something that you can pit against another player. I don't feel that with Tetris, so I actually feel pretty strongly I would choose chess in all situations. Tetris is just something that doesn't tickle my desire to want to spend my time on it. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't say that it's a time waster because I mean there is a lot of strategy that goes into Tetris since there is a random element to it, and it's also just like it also factors in response time, and it is a timed puzzle game in a way, and I do think that there is like a logical requirement to play Tetris past a certain point because we can all do the first like 10 stages, but after that, that's where like the skill sets like. You develop that gulf, and I really was more interested in like the discussion of like I guess where you landed on this because I'm gonna say at the end of the day I'm probably not playing either in my spare time. The reason why I always associate these two things is because it goes back to my first point I made at the top of the discussion, which is that like there's no like flavor to these things. They are numbers games. They are brain games. They are things that like you're meant to like activate those sensors in your head. And I'm just not someone who gets a lot of gratification from just raw like data, and that's how I've always seen these two. And I guess like for me, I'm just like on that quest to like meet and understand the people who do engage with things that way. Cause I don't get it,
Yeah, I understand. Do you like Sudoku? You mentioned Sudoku earlier. Is that a game you like to do?
No, same feelings towards that. It's like the people who are like, I love Sudoku. It's like, what do you love about it? And it's not like a facetious, what do you love about it? It's like a genuine, like, explain to me what the appeal is.
Yeah, for sure. I feel the same way. I mean, I'm not good at chess, but I am a competitive-minded person. Chess is good because you can beat somebody. I don't feel Tetris is a useful exercise because, like, you don't accomplish anything. You get better at the game, but and maybe this is coloring my opinion of chess. I don't think it's worth it to play chess to just be better at chess. You have to prove that betterness against another person. That's the whole point. So Tetris, useless. Crossword puzzles, useless. Sudoku, useless. Seek and finds, useless. That's just not the kind of gaming experience I'm looking for. So I think we're closer to each other than it seems.
I think I would asterisk all of your statements, like, with the obligatory for you, because I do think that people determine usefulness on their own merits,
Yeah, no, for sure. I am that kind of player. So we'll just leave it at that. Thank you for joining me on this chess exhortation. I was a little worried about how it turned out. Maybe we talked a little bit too much. I don't know. But I thought this was a great opportunity to stretch our legs, work out our muscles a little bit on something a little different. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing it up because, like I said, I did learn things, and that's where I find value in my entertainment.
Sure, absolutely. I am sitting here with bated breath, ready for your exhortation.
All right. So last week I closed out the episode with a rant on how we need more romance in video games.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
Well, I did find something that I really wanted us to talk about that kind of went down that alley. It was almost immediately after we finished the podcast. I was like, oh yeah, there's a really obvious one. We're going to be playing a game that I like a lot. And this is a recent one that I can speak to as being a game that I know is good, or at least in my opinion, as always. Florence, the mobile game. Have you heard of this?
Florence, like the city?
Yeah, but it's a person.
Oh, so it's a name. Okay.
Yeah.
I have not heard about this at all.
Okay. The game's about a relationship, and that's all I'll say about it. it's a cheap mobile game that is really good in my opinion. I think it's great. I could be wrong about this. I think Tristan said Meg may have played it. She wasn't for sure on that either. But I think that there is value to be found in this game.
Okay.
And think WarioWare, but slice of life a little bit.
Oh, that's very interesting. Okay, I'm super into this. I'm very excited about this, especially if it has a romantic bent to it. I'm very excited to talk about this.
Yeah, me too. I think that's all I'll say though, because this is a game that like all of the meat's going to be in the actual episode itself. So let's shift over to back matter. What you got going on, Will?
Oh yeah. So we mentioned it before on this podcast. My girlfriend and I have finally sat down and started watching Haikyuu.
Mm-hmm.
We just finished the first season. We just started the second season. And yeah, I gotta be honest, everything you said about this is completely on point. This is a really inspiring show. I love watching the teamwork and then, get past their, roadblocks, both, physical and mental. And yeah, it's just really great to cheer this team on. And we've both really enjoyed it. And it's especially great for my girlfriend because she did volleyball in high school. So a lot of the show is her explaining to me the rules of volleyball, which is very very stimulating for me. So you were absolutely right to suggest this to us.
Okay, I have to ask. Oh, so spoiler zone. Spoilers to anyone who has interest in watching Haikyuu. How insanely emotionally devastating was their loss? Or I guess both the women's team and the men's team's losses during the tournament at the end of season 1.
Sure, yeah. I found it hard to care about the women's team. I don't think I assume that the manga goes more in depth on this, but I don't think the anime really makes you care about the women's team as much as you probably should. So it was great that they did that exposition about all of their feelings about losing, but at the end of the day, it wasn't really about that.
I agree with you up to the point where the one woman's team member, I don't even know her name, which kind of speaks to your point. But the moment that speaks to me and made me emotional was where she was it was the team captain. She kind of stood up for her team and was kind of bearing the emotional weight. And as soon as she her team knew, as soon as she walked away, she was going to have her break, and then she did. I think it's a basic empathetic thing to just be devastated by that, watching someone who knew that hey, this is my last chance to succeed at this thing I love and it's gone. That was that resonated with me pretty hard.
Yeah, that was a great, very emotional moment. I think the women's team could have been cut from the show entirely and it would have been the exact same show. But the loss at the end of the first season, yeah, that was very devastating. The way that they portrayed that, ramped up the excitement. Yeah, that was pretty devastating. And I'm glad they had an episode after that to kind of pick up the pieces and get the team kind of back up on their feet before moving on to the second season. So still have a lot to watch, but really looking forward to the rest of that show. And thank you for not exhorting it, but suggesting it.
Yeah. It's one of those that I really wish that we were doing this. This was our job, was to do this podcast, because then we would have all week to just binge these things and talk about it at the end, But because I would love to have an episode on Haikyuu, but
I don't think that is off the cards. If one of us really wants to do it, hey, I mean, it's our podcast. We can do whatever the hell we want, right? What have you been up to this week?
Okay, so we've actually been rewatching Steven Universe, the first few seasons, with the kids. It's a show that myself, Tristan, kids have adored very much. And we were watching it on Hulu for the longest time. I think it was up through season 3 that they had posted. But inexplicably, they never posted season 4 or 5. So we were years behind and just constantly checking Hulu. When's the next season going to post? And you're not really you can watch them online on cartoonnetwork.com and stuff, but it's not really meant to be watched there. They're not really a streaming site, they don't have good television settings if you're watching it on your TV and stuff like that, because you have to watch it in a browser. So we ended up getting HBO Max through my dad, who was kind enough to kind of let us onto his plan with him, let us make our own little profile. And we have been catching up. We started Steven Universe from the beginning and have been rewatching it. And that show is still just as good as our first time through. It is a great, very heartfelt show, and honestly, like, insanely well thought and mature television for children. Teaches them a lot about sexuality and relationships, and does so in a way that isn't cringe. And I think that that's really cool.
Okay. Yeah. I've heard lots of good things about Steven Universe. I've never seen it. I'm a bit worried that I might be a bit too black-pilled to enjoy it. But if you're giving it a good recommendation, I think I would probably enjoy it if I saw it too.
Yeah, if you came back and were like bad mouthing it, I think I would agree with you that you're pretty black-pilled, because it's one of those shows that, like, it is just a very motivating and loving show. It feels a lot of adoration for the characters, but in a very like real feeling way. There's true tragedy and like real victories in the show that it like, again, is just not common in children's television.
Oh yeah, that definitely seems interesting, and seems like something that children's animation needs a lot more of.
Yeah, I agree. Other than that, God, it's just been work, man. I modded a Game Boy earlier in the week, screwed that up kind of bad. Didn't find that out until after I had finished it.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I was modding my Game Boy, and before I had even turned it on, I took pictures of it and was like, posted to Twitter. But I was like, hey, yeah, did it, finished it. I turned it on, and there were these markings on the screen, and I was like, huh, because I put a special backlit screen in that's like kind of an HD like higher resolution screen than what the Game Boy originally had. Yeah. It looks beautiful when it works properly. Well, I guess I pressed too hard when pushing it in and getting it set, because there are these permanent indentations in the back of the screen, and I'm gonna have to like order another screen and fix that.
Oh, man, that's rough.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. Other than that, it was a lot of work for me. I was gearing up to play some Pokemon Emerald on it, but delayed a few days, it looks like. Yeah. Other than that, that's it for me. I'm ready to close this one out if you are.
Take it as an opportunity to meditate on the transient nature of reality. That's my suggestion.
That's some deep shit. Okay.
Yeah, let's wrap this one up. Let's put it in the fridge.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for listening to this episode of Disc Dandies. You can follow Will on Twitter @AgroRhetoric and myself @ActionPancake. We would love it if you would follow along with our exhortations and stay up to date with all the latest Disc Dandies excitement @DiscDandiesPod. Join us here next episode for another spin with the Disc Dandies.
Later.